Within our world, we see a divide that continues to grow, with each person looking for the answers to what appears to be an unsolvable problem. How do I achieve the happy and healthy life that I seek? My name is Drew Sievertson, and this is why there will be a revolution. People are waking up to the reality that governments have become disconnected from their constituents. Since 2021, satisfaction has declined, notably in places like the United States, France, the UK, and Germany. And in the US, only about 1 in 3 people say that they're satisfied with how democracy is working. This decline in confidence is seen across different age groups and political backgrounds, though it's especially strong in younger adults who don't exactly support the government, believing that it is working in short-sighted ways that will only hurt them as people who need to be hopeful for the future. That makes people uneasy, giving them a real push towards needing a revolution. Few things in life are certain. However, one thing that almost everyone wants is certainty. A roof over their heads, being able to afford living, and being able to afford to experience the joys and the wonder that this world has is one of those things. So when average home prices increased by 44% over the past 10 years, while inflation has only made up about 30% of that increase, we look at a 50% housing inflation rate. This just makes one of the baseline things that people look for, instability, further and further out of reach. And it's not just housing that is becoming more and more out of reach, but corporations are also creating predatory products that feed on our underdeveloped brains. So with things like buy now, pay later, that Klarna and Afterpay, it makes 30% of Americans use these services, and over half of them have experienced problems such as overspending when they believe that they can afford a quarter of what something costs right now, and then they will be able to figure out the other 3/4 when they come due. They miss payments because when you stack future problems on top of themselves with no real answer to solve them, the issue only compounds. And with the average user using these services many times a month, people lose track of what it even was that they went ahead and signed themselves up for. And buy now, pay later isn't the only new thing on the block. Sports gambling, just in 2024, generated $149 billion in revenue. That's about $730 per person for the 60% of Americans who gambled in this past year. We see that these gambling practices haven't been sustainable, as national gambling hotline users are up nearly 60% in the last year, with Ohio's statewide program experiencing a 211% increase in traffic, with people reaching out saying that they've lost it all. They've lost control of themselves, and they don't know where to go. And now that America faces the real possibility of being removed as the world reserve currency, we face a situation where we can't exactly believe that we will just grow out of all of these problems and that they will solve themselves. So, where does that put us? In the past, we have seen many authoritarian regimes rise out of public unrest. So the real question is, what have we learned in the time since the Mussolinis and Hitlers and Stalins of the world came into and were driven out of power? Unfortunately, it appears as if we've learned nothing. See, after the fall of the Soviet Union, it took less than a decade for a presidency to turn into a dictatorship, as President Putin has extended the number of terms that he can run for, creating what appears to be a seemingly endless loop of falsifying and rigging elections. In Congress, there are no term limits. People can be representatives of communities that they haven't lived in since before they were elected, with some officials being in office for more than 3 and 4 decades. Governments have continued to create programs that breach our privacy more and more, allowing for them to spy on citizens who have been convicted of no crimes, who are not suspected of any wrongdoing, and yet we only learn of these programs through whistleblowers like Edward Snowden, who was forced to leave the country due to bringing these things to light. As it stands, there are really only 2 paths forward. The first one being that the government decides to protect its people from the predatory practices, and it helps to improve the quality of life, allowing for people to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Or there will be a revolution that completely changes everything around us.